The Lumads are peaceful and proud. Their name literally translates to the indigenous people. Their whole way of life is tied to their ancestral land. But they have been forced from their homes and into this evacuation center for their safety.
In the dialect of the Manobo, we call it bubungan. It means all aspects of our life is within the ancestral lands. Land is our life. The political life, the economic life, and the cultural life is all there. That's why it's important.
Big corporations attempt to displace these Lumads for economic gains, for economic interests. That makes it more complicated, an issue to tackle.
The Lumads say the government is targeting them because of their strong resistance against forceful possession of their lands, especially aggressive commercial exploitation by multinational mining corporations with an eye on profit.
It is sacred because this environment is where our lives started and where we lost everything.
I want the church to speak for that, to say no, abolish militarization.
Military and paramilitary forces are driving the Lumad people from land they farmed for centuries, forcing them into evacuation centers like this one in Davao City. 700 people are contained here on just 3 hilly acres. 9th grader Lando Dalen walked 5 hours for his voice to be heard.
Simple lang kami mga
As Lumads, our demands are very simple. Stop the attacks on our school, and stop the attacks on our teachers, and stop the killing of the Lumads.
The children sing about a fight for survival.
Our parents are angry because their land is stolen. Even though we are only children, we can fight for our rights. We are exploited and miserably treated.
I wish that someday we can go back to our community in Wakiraman.
How does a Lumad fight a big corporation? That's precisely the basic question everyone asks.
It's high time for us as a church to hear their voice and to help them bring this struggle to the global or to the world so that we can respond intentionally to their cry.
It's a city, but we live unhappily because we are far away with our parents.
The Philippines is the second most dangerous country in the world for human rights and land defenders. Every 12 days, an activist who opposes big corporations accused of illegal labor practices and violent land grabbing is killed here. It's common for the assassins to be members of state-backed paramilitaries on the payroll of big corporations, and so they rarely face punishment. The dead are often written off by officials as communist collaborators. Identified has a potential of $1 trillion worth of untapped resources. Much of those resources are believed to be on the ancestral lands of indigenous groups like the Lumad, who are routinely evicted by paramilitaries so that big business can move in.
Hello, I'm Voltaire Tupas. Welcome to Rappler Talk. On September 1, 13-year-old Lumad Shin Campos saw her father shot in the head. According to the group Katribo, at least 53 Lumad had been killed extrajudicially under the Aquino administration, and the killings have intensified in 2015. Is the Aquino administration doing enough to end impunity in Mindanao? How should the government address the plight of indigenous peoples? How can the public and civil society help the Lumad? Joining us today is Vicky Tauli-Curpus, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, to discuss the issue further.
na rin sa gobyerno ng sundalo, ng mga military kay pila naman tayo nga kuan gyud yung mga reader gyud sa mga matag organisasyon gapat yung gyud siya sa mga kuan militar. Sige lang kana ang daan si kuan si kadtong reader sa Kalumbay. Oh, kadtong gipatay to siya. Si Dato Anglaw. Usa to siya nga nagbarog isip Lumad reader, usat to siya nga nagbarog pero patay sa mga sundalo.
As mayor of Mindanao's capital, Davao, for 30 years, Duterte won a reputation of defending the Lumad against paramilitaries. So they were horrified when he became president and gave a green light for the killings to not only continue, but Lumad children, he said, are also fair game.
Sabihin ko dyan sa mga Lumad ngayon, umalis kayo dyan. Bubombahan ko yan. Isali ko yung mga struktura ninyo. I will use the armed forces, the Philippine Air Force. Talagang bubombahan ko yung mga lahat ng ano ninyo. Because you're operating illegally and you are teaching the children to rebel against government.
Wala gihapoy ka ng kaugmaon nga ilang maabot o kung padayon man galing nga ing anak yun dili lang pipila lang ka mga batan-on ang imong makita.
Earlier this year, Duterte began pushing for the Communist Party to be put on a list of terrorist groups and individuals, along with what the government calls its legal fronts, from student to women's groups, and seemingly anyone who challenges the government. Dubbed a virtual hit list by human rights groups, even the UN Special Rapporteur for Indigenous Rights was named, alongside 600 other people.
Kami po sa Save Our Schools Network, mula pa sa Mindanao, nandito po ang halos 300 na mga Lumad students, teachers, and parents na naglakbay pa mula sa Mindanao upang ipakita sa gobyerno, lalo na sa Presidente, sa Department of Education, sa mga mamamayan dito po sa Metro Manila, na ang martial law po sa Mindanao ay nagbubunsod at nagtutulak na pag-atake. Walang humpay na pag-atake sa mga paaralang Lumad sa Mindanao. Sa katunayan, ang Save Our Schools Network nakapagtala ng halos 89 schools under attack during the first year of Duterte administration. 89 schools na mas lumala yung pang-atake mula nung naideklara po yung all-out war noong February at martial law noong Mayo.
Sabi ng mga sundalo, kapag mag-aral ulit kami sa para lang Misfi Academy, papatayin po ang mga magulang namin. Dahil sabi ng mga alamara, kapag bumalik kayo mag-aral ng eskwela ng Misfi Academy, mamamatay na yung mga magulang ninyo. Sabi ng mga sundalo. At alamara na binigyan ng mga sundalo ng mga armas upang ang mga Lumad ay mag-away-away. So, pumunta na kami sa Davao para mag-evacuate at doon mag-aral dahil kapag doon pa kami mag-aral sa aming komunidad, papatay nila yung mga guro namin dahil ang guro daw namin ay NPA, pero hindi naman yung totoo na NPA yung paaralan namin. Sinisiraan lang po kaming mga Lumad para mapaiwan kaming mga Lumad na maging mangmang. Para kaming mga Lumad, madali kaming lukuhin para maraming mga proyekto na makapunta doon at makapagtayo sila ng mga plantasyon sa aming lupa.
I did read about the claims that it is an internal fight. It's a tribal war between the people. It's not a tribal war. They are all manobos. No, they are all coming from the same people. So I don't think that's possible. It's really a paramilitary force that has been armed. And how can you have a force armed with high-powered rifles? Where did those guns come from? Are those guns illegal? So those are the kinds of things that need to be investigated.
How do you deal with a situation where there's a conflict between the government and the rebels?
Well, I think that first of all, that really tells us that there's really a need to pursue peace talks, peace negotiations between the government and the New People's Army and the National Democratic Front. In the past, when the peace talks were happening, there was a joint monitoring body that's supposed to jointly, the ones belonging to the NDF and the ones belonging to the army, they should do investigations of claims of human rights violations. But now that whole peace talks has collapsed. There are no peace talks happening. So there's no mechanism wherein such kind of investigation should take place. And I would strongly recommend that a mechanism where a joint monitoring and investigation could happen, and then the facts, so that the facts will really come out. And based on those facts, then there will be subsequent discussions on how to deal with that kind of situation. What's happening is that the people are caught in the middle. They are forced to side with which, or at least they are made to side with whichever group, and in the process, that's when all these kinds of killings are happening. So I think that's really something that needs to be addressed.
Good morning. We're here today at the Supreme Court, and behind me is Flag Chairman Attorney Chel Jokno, a longtime human rights lawyer. He's representing a group of teachers, tribe leaders, and students from alternative schools in Mindanao. They're filing the 4th petition against the 3rd extension of martial law in Mindanao. With Attorney Jokno is a teacher called Jenny Rose Hayahay. She's from Compostela Valley, and they're alleging that her parents were abducted by military agents and released only upon the pressure of Lumad tribes and activists calling for the release of the parents.
Sabi po nila ay yung martial law daw ay naging mapayapa ang Mindanao. Pero para sa mga Lumad ay hindi totoo yun. Ang totoo ay pinapalaya sila sa kanilang mga komunidad at sa mga eskwelahan, sinusunog pa nga ang mga eskwelahan nila. Supposedly, dahil daw ay yun ay mga NPA school. Pero pag hinanapan naman nila ng ebidensya yun, ay wala naman pinapakita.
Mas nag-worsen po siya. Kasi di ba, dapat sana yung any armed forces, dapat sana malayo yung encampment nila 500 meters away from the community, supposedly. Pero yung nag-martial law na po, doon na po sila nagkakapo mismo sa community po. At saka, threat and harass po nila yung mga schools namin. Persahang isinerado po.
Only Jenny Rose was able to enter the Supreme Court. Other members of the Lumad communities are there outside. They were not permitted to enter the court. Some members, they are tribe leaders, teachers, and students. They're alleging in their petition that ever since the martial law was imposed over Mindanao in 2017, attacks on these alternative schools have escalated. Reports such as burning down the schools, killing teachers and tribe leaders, and abducting them have been documented in this petition, and they are hoping that the Supreme Court listens to their plea to declare martial law unconstitutional and lift the military rule over Mindanao. This is Lian Juan, Rappler, Manila.
The response made by the Duterte administration is disproportionate, unwarranted, when it placed the entire island of Mindanao under the state of martial law, and when it suspended the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus, because it even resulted to more violations of human rights. The change that we want, the change that we need, is only possible if the President, together with the people, will push for this genuine change and structural development. Nothing else.